Larry from beautiful Andalusia, Alabama, former home of five-star linebacker Nico Johnson, I believe. Is Alabama about to take a real big step back after the way the 2024 season ended? It feels like the Saben golden days were a long time ago now. Well, Larry, they kind of were a long time ago. Because I'm going to make a not so humble suggestion that even in the latter years of Nick Saban, the Nick Saban golden years were kind of in the rearview mirror. I'm just saying that defensive profile sort of tapered off a little bit. The penalized nature of those teams in the latter Saban years, very uncharacteristic maybe of the past. And also NIL and the portal had started to chip away a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. So let's talk about this. Because I said a lot when Kalen DeBoer got to Alabama. I still think everything I said. I think they'll be one of the top programs in the country. I've got a thought on 2025. But I'll just talk in general here. Let's address the Saban golden days, as Larry put them. Not only is Alabama not going to touch the Saban golden days again, nobody in college football is going to touch the Saban golden days again. And I'm going to tell you why. We don't play the same sport anymore. Kirby's finding this out right now at Georgia. We don't play the same sport anymore. So you can talk about the Saban blueprint all you want to. First off, his former coaches were having a tough time duplicating that even in the previous state of affairs that were college football recruiting and roster building. They couldn't pull it off even then. Now it got to where Saban realized he wasn't going to be able to pull it off, so he retired. So I'm going to tell you, no one's pulling it off. If Saban came out of retirement and took his old job again, he wasn't going to pull it off anymore. The best of the best in college football right now are not going to pull that off sustainably, long term. Like Ohio State looks like a machine right now. Watch how hard it is, year over year, to try and duplicate that. Get Kirby at Georgia. Watch right now. Just watch them the other night. Well, Josh, they had their backup quarterback. They sure did. They sure did. But you know what else I saw? I saw them all year, unable to look like their vintage selves on the offensive line. At running back. Why? Well, because they didn't have the same kind of depth they used to have. Why? Well, because people have rated their twos and their threes. That's why. And they, in good faith, cannot sit there and overpay those guys to the degree that a second or third tier team is willing to step up and pay. Just out of principle, they're not going to do that. So no one's doing that. So if you're thinking Kalen DeBoer, the standard he has to meet, the bar he has to clear is doing what Saban used to do, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. If you're thinking that at Oregon, if you're thinking that at Texas, if you're thinking that wherever about your current head coach, that's the standard. And if you don't do what Saban did or don't come close to that, you're not achieving greatness. Like, that is setting yourself up for mental anguish in the coming years. Now, what about a more realistic approach? What if instead of thinking Bama's got to look like Saban's golden years, vintage Saban, Bama's got to look like Bama in its prime, instead of thinking that Kalen DeBoer's got to clear the Saban bar to be deemed a success, what if I were more realistic? What if I said, my expectation for DeBoer is he needs to recruit at a high level, average a top 6 or 7 class per year. They need to be competitive resource-wise. They should be, in years to come, a very, very high-caliber coaching staff. So he should not be out-coached. They should not be out-talented or out-developed. And they should compete every year. They should be one of the top 5 competing programs every year in college football. And then you let the chips fall where they may. If that's my standard, if that's my expectation, I think he'll reach it. I think he'll meet that. So the reason I think that, and the reason some people don't, is because they looked really, really hit or miss this year. So this past year, it was crazy because the same year that saw them beat Georgia and just totally throttle LSU was the same year that saw them humbled by Vandy and Oklahoma. And you're looking at it and saying, how is this the same team? Well, the way it was the same team is to understand that the quarterback position is the most important position in sports. And they were held hostage by that position all year. How schizophrenic did that offense look? How did DeBoer's offense look this year? It wasn't DeBoer's offense. It was, does Jalen Milroe show up or not? I highly suspect that in the coming years, what Alabama's doing offensively will, number one, be more consistent and effective than what they did this year. Number two, it won't look like what they did this year. Their entire status, their entire odds and hopes and aspirations as a team week to week were held completely hostage by the quarterback position. Now, that's not the first time that's ever happened. It's just that normally you're a lot more consistent in your performance level, especially from a multi-year starter at the quarterback position than they were this year. So Keelan Russell is your guy. Keelan Russell is an incoming 5-star quarterback. And whatever Ty Simpson and Austin Mack are this year, Keelan Russell is the future of that program. The way I choose to look at Alabama right now is through a 2-year lens. And that is by 2026, I think Keelan Russell is your starter, and I think you are competing for a national championship with him as your starter. Now, if you could add a bonus cherry on top that they compete for it in 2025, that'd be wonderful. This is not some poverty program. They will be very competitive in 2025. I don't know what they are at quarterback right now. I don't know what they're going to get out of Ty Simpson. I don't know what they're going to get out of Austin Mack because we haven't seen him play. So if it's not either one of those guys, then I'm banking on a true freshman coming in and immediately playing championship caliber ball. I choose to never expect that out of anyone, and if I get it, I'm just pleasantly surprised by it. So he'll be okay. Bama will be fine there. But I would say the thing that gives me the most confidence about Bama right now is their talent acquisition profile, their roster profile. And you may look at that and say, what? They didn't look elite this year. Oh, they weren't. They weren't. Quarterback position chief among those, but then even downstream from that. No, it's not some vintage mid-20 teens Saben roster. He knew that when he left, by the way. And might I suggest that was one of the reasons he left. And so Kalen DeBoer inherited what he inherited. But I'll tell you the hallmark that is and will be shared by the elite programs moving forward in college football. It's not how much money you have to spend. It's how you're spending it. So what you will see in years to come is you'll see the big spenders spending big, but you won't always know it because they're spending it on their guys. What you have to be able to do is you have to be able to evaluate and get the guys you want out of high school and then develop them in-house. So you go evaluate and recruit your guys, you develop your guys, and then you pay your guys. Ohio State just did this, and it's not even realized because people keep paying attention to a couple of the big portal acquisitions they had. You really think they spent $20+ million on a few portal guys? No, they spent it on the guys they recruited out of high school and developed in-house. They're paying a lot of their guys more. Alabama just had a bunch of guys declare not for the draft, but declare they're returning for another year. They had some other guys declare they're leaving. That is, in case you can't realize what's going on, them evaluating their roster, finding the guys they think they can win with, and paying them. They are reinvesting in the ones they know. And they're going to shed some skin just like everyone else will, and they'll add some guys from the portal. It'll be supplemental. They will not rely on the portal to win. And this past recruiting cycle, they landed the number 2 class in the country. So that's version 1 of them recruiting under a guy that I was told probably couldn't recruit the South very well. But just pay attention to that. Pay attention to how good the high school classes they land are. But then how much do they feel like they need to go to the portal versus how much do they just feel like reinvesting in like the Ryan Williams or Jalen Mbakwe's of the world to keep the guys they trusted and evaluated and recruited out of high school in the program multiple years. Because that's how you build culture, but that's how you build a roster that you can depend on. Ohio State may be about to win a national championship. All due respect, they're not doing it because they have Quinshon Judkins. They're doing it because they recruited guys, in some cases last year, in Jeremiah Smith, in other cases multiple years ago, but they recruited them and then they reinvested in them. And then Caleb Downs is available, absolutely we'll take him. Judkins is available, absolutely we'll take him. I remember talking to Ryan Day about that in spring, and he said, when Judkins was available, first thing we did is we get on the phone with him and we tell him, Travion's not leaving, FYI. So if you're looking to come in here and be the premier feature back, this is probably not the place for you. And Judkins said, no, man, I'm all about that. And that's why they took him. But they took him to pair with a guy that they had recruited and developed out of high school, is the point. So if Alabama continues on that trajectory, Kalen DeBoer is a stud. So the guy knows how to coach football. They'll be fine there. It's just that it was what it was in year one. Now, I got some buddies who think, oh, dude, that halftime of that bowl game, I think he should have benched Milroe and put in one of his backup quarterbacks. You can think that. I'm totally fine with that. And it was ugly. I don't know this because I have never asked anyone in that building about it. I almost think that they had gotten themselves, and maybe Kalen DeBoer had gotten himself into the mindset of, I'm going to let it be what it is in year one. I'm going to let it play out. Maybe, just maybe, some people around here need to see what it looks like if it plays out their way. Because from here on out, it's going to play out my way. And so your way, 9 wins, and my way, TBD. But my way is the way it's going to work because I'm the head coach. I'm the one they handed the keys to. What I'm saying is not to make an excuse for them going 9 and whatever this year. They underachieved. They should have been better as a team than they were this year. But what I am saying is I think there was maybe a little give on the front end to get a little bit more on the back end. That's a theory of mine. You can do whatever you want to with it.